so here's the site.
We'll call the Town Plan and Zoning Commission meeting of May 22nd to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the Secretary please read the roll?
Chairman Ida. Commissioner Canelo.
Here.
Commissioner Clackett. Commissioner Cox.
Here.
Commissioner King.
Here.
Commissioner Sobineski.
Here.
Commissioner Woods.
Here.
Commissioner Malka. Commissioner Braverman.
Here.
Commissioner Cannon.
We will have Commissioner Braverman sit in for Commissioner Claffey. Approval of the agenda, we have some changes.
Yes, first of all, I recommend we add to the agenda executive session to discuss public pending litigation.
Where do you want to put that?
Could we put that early in the agenda, maybe even before public participation?
Yeah, we'll put it on as the next item.
Okay. And then I also recommend we delete item 10A, petitions for public hearing. The accessory apartment application has been withdrawn.
Excuse me.
God bless you.
Okay, and you want to move the Newington Ridge?
Yes, let's do that also. Let's move item, new business, item C, Newington Ridge. Let's move that up to right after the executive session, so that after the executive session, we can come back here and then discuss Newington Ridge in open session.
Can we get a motion to go into executive
So moved.
session?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll be back in a couple of minutes. We have to go over some legal things. Okay, we need a motion to come back in.
Make a motion,
So
come
moved.
back into adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mr. Planner. Wanna-
I think the next item is public approval,
Newington
public
Ridge.
participation.
Newington Ridge and then public
Oh, that's right, that's
participation.
what you said. Okay.
Give a report to the Newington Ridge people, what we didn't do here.
Oh, okay. Well, as everyone knows, at the last meeting, the TPC voted to notify the developer that it was the town's intent to finish the project, and it is still the town's intent to finish the project. And the staff is working on the details, but it is same situation as 2 weeks ago. We're just 2 weeks further along, but nothing, there's been no change in direction. We're just following the same path that was started 2 weeks ago.
We're waiting for the 30 days to get B up. Once the 30 days are up, then the action will start.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And the town planner will present to the homeowners association an update of exactly everything that you're planning on doing?
Right, a little bit further down in the process, we will be involving the homeowners association, make sure that they're aware of what the town intends to do, the specific details. I mean, which shrub, which catch basin, all that, to make you aware of what the plan is.
Okay, so we have, okay,
It's really, we're waiting.
gotcha. Are we on here?
You're done.
You asked us to come back and we did.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is public participation. Anyone from the public wishing to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none. Huh? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Robert Amenta from 3455 Berlin Turnpike, Modern Tire. In regards to the auto use
We'll have
regulations,
to wait until we get to that item. You can't do that under public participation
Oh,
because
I'm
it's an
sorry.
item that's on the
Okay.
agenda. So when it comes up, it's a public hearing, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you want. Okay, Bob? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Commissioner comments? Seeing none, please read the public hearing procedures.
The order of proceedings at a public hearing shall be as follows. A, convening by a chairman. B, reading of the notice by the commission secretary or commissioner designated by the chairman to act in his stead. C, identification and location of the property involved by the town planner. D, a statement of the issue to be considered by the chairman or the town planner. E, presentation by the applicant limited to 20 minutes unless a specific extension is granted by the chair. F, persons wishing to speak in favor of the application limited to 2 minutes per person. G, persons wishing to speak in opposition of the application limited to 3 minutes per person. H, rebuttal by the applicant limited to 5 minutes total. I, rebuttal by the opposition limited to 5 minutes total. During a public hearing, it shall be within the discretion of the chairman whether the time limitation shall be varied slightly, provided the commission consents to any such variance. In no case shall an extension be for more than 20% of the allotment indicated above, or 1 minute, whichever is greater.
Please read 1419 petition.
Petition 14-19, zoning text amendment, section 3.11.3, section 3.17.8, and section 6 point, where am I? Oh, excuse me. 3.117.8 and section 6.11, motor vehicle service uses, town plan and zoning commission applicant.
Mr. Chairman, I'm recusing myself as I have in previous meetings. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Planner, why don't you go over this? I see go over the changes from this one to the last one, because there's more than 2 changes that were made.
Well, in the memo that I'm about to read, what I did was I just started from scratch. I have about one sentence, one paragraph explaining every change between the existing reg, which has been on the books for the past 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and what we're now proposing to do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this amendment will allow motor vehicle-related businesses by special permit in the B, the BBT, the PD, and industrial zones. These activities were allowed prior to 2007, when the TPC made a number of substantial changes to the zoning regs. This amendment is similar to the one proposed by TPC earlier this year, but without the prohibition on overhead service, roll-up doors facing the street, but on the advice of the town attorney, a new public hearing is being held on this new version. So, number 1, this version contains 2 substantive changes to section 6.11, which have been in effect since 2012. A, the 1 acre minimum lot size for single uses and the 5 acre minimum lot size for multi-tenant buildings and multi-building parcels has been eliminated. Yeah, this was a new rule that was adopted in 2012, and I can tell you it has had a substantial impact on preventing additional businesses in Newington. It's been a while now, but for a while I was getting a call every other month or so from someone who wanted to open a business on the Berlin Turnpike, and they wanted to go into a multi subdivided building, but it wasn't 3 acres, so they couldn't do it. Or they had a nice spot in an existing building on the Turnpike, but it was less than 1 acre, so I had to tell them you can't do it. So that rule is being proposed to be eliminated. And the prohibition on overhead doors is also being proposed to be eliminated. That has been on the books since 2012, and I don't know how onerous it's been. I haven't had those conversations with motor vehicle service operators, but that's being proposed to be deleted also. Number 2, this version contains the following changes that were suggested during the March and April public hearings on the previous version. A, Section 6.11.2 was modified to allow the replacement of minor parts such as batteries and windshield wiper blades outside of the building. B, Section 6.11.3 was revised to make church more inclusive. C, Section 6.11.4 was revised to allow temporary parking of customers' cars in the front yard or right of way. D, Section 6.11.7 and 6.11.8 were revised to delete references to 2 Connecticut state statutes that were repealed several years ago. Number 3, this version, like the one proposed as petition 03-19, contains the following changes to 6.11. A second paragraph in section 6.11 has been revised to specifically state that new car dealers and used car dealers are both allowed. I added this because the current language is ambiguous. As I've said previously, I believe the TPZ can adopt language that allows one of these activities but not the other if desired. B, the phrase auto-related uses, motor vehicle service uses, and equipment in section 6.11.1 was changed to simply all structures and equipment. The existing phrase is ambiguous and implies that nothing associated with a motor vehicle activity could be within 30 feet of the street. C, the phrase auto-related uses and motor vehicle service uses, which include repairs, in section 6.11.2, was changed to simply all repairs. The existing phrase is ambiguous and implies that nothing associated with motor vehicle activity could be within 30 feet of the street. D, the phrase entrances and exits for auto-related uses and motor vehicle service uses in section 6.11.3 was changed to simply entrances and exits for any use approved under this section to be consistent with the changes to similar language in section 6.11.1 and 6.11.2.
Can you give me an explanation on C, 6.11.4, parking in the right-of-way in the front yard?
Oh, right. That came up during the public hearing. Someone mentioned that if we were to enforce that rule exactly as it's written, once a car is finished and ready for its owner to pick up, it couldn't be left parked for a few minutes in the front yard because the rule prohibits that as originally written. So I'm suggesting we revise it so that it's a reasonable amount of time a car could be waiting for its owner to come and pick it up.
Excuse me, you're referring to private property, not state or town property?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners?
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but in the paragraph 3A,
Of the amendment itself? Okay, let me
Yeah.
flip to that.
where was that? No, that states that new car dealers and used car dealers are both allowed. Are we
I'm sorry,
saying-
Commissioner Fox, which section? I want to put on the screen so
Where-
that the audience can follow you.
3A. In the new section.
6.11.
Staff comments,
Six-
yeah.
Oh, you mean in my memo?
Yeah, in your memo.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were referring to
Okay,
the.
now we're talking about,
All right, hang on. Let me go back to my memo. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. So which
oh,
sentence?
yeah, 3A, we're talking about the second paragraph in 6.
Oh, okay.
About
right.
new car dealers and used car dealers are both allowed. Are we, I hope we're not saying here that, a used car dealer,
What I've done is I put
car dealer,
What I've done is I
allowed.
put both of those items on the table, and you can choose which one you want, which one you don't want, both of them, neither of them. They're there for you to decide which ones you want.
I can tell you what I want right now and what I don't want. I personally do not want to see, number one, a used, quote-unquote, used car dealer. One that, a dealer that that only sells used cars and so, of course, repairs used cars. I know when a new car dealership will take trade-ins, and if they don't wholesale it, they'll sell them on the lot. Which is all well and good because anything they get on a trade, they're going to make sure it's looking good, and they're not going to have them sitting in front or anywhere with hoods open, big placards in it, big wavy signs all over, pennants all over the antenna. Not that there are any antennas anymore, but and so those are the things I would like to prevent.
Any other, Commissioner Woods?
Following on that same line, if in fact we did do that, then like a CarMax is not allowed, because CarMax doesn't sell, well, I think they do sell some new cars, but they're a used car dealer. That's what they are.
Right, they would
So-
not be able to.
yeah.
Right.
So, I think that's something that we would like to attract if possible, specifically for the Berlin Turnpike.
Right, we have sign regulations anyhow to stop banners. We have the regulations to stop the signs and banners and streamers, and they just have to be enforced.
Any other comments?
I mean, again, I think the planner did a pretty good job of listening to the comments through the public hearing that we had, and yeah, I think you addressed them all. And I guess we're going to find out probably in a few more minutes if the public thinks you did as good as I do right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? Going to open up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Robert Amenta, 3455 Berlin Turnpike, Modern Tire. First off, I just want to kind of align the memo with the proposed regulations, because in the memo, it states that there's going to be minor repairs which would be allowed, like wiper blade replacement or batteries, but yet in the proposed regulations, it doesn't state that at all, under 611.2.
Say that again, Bob.
Under 611.2 there, it states, in the memo, it stated that there were going to be minor repairs that would be allowed, like battery replacement or wiper blades. Yet in the actual proposed regulations, it does not state that. It just says, all repairs shall be entirely within a building and at least 30 feet from any street right-of-way line. That's in the proposed regulations under 611.2. And in the memo, it states, under 2A in the memo, it says section 611.2 was modified to allow the replacement of minor parts such as batteries and windshield wiper blades outside the building. I just want them to be aligned properly and
You don't understand
Get it
what you're
right.
saying?
I was looking to get it so that I could display it on the monitor, so to be honest, wasn't listening to you, so. But,
you
I'll
want
go
me to
back
repeat
and
it?
look at minutes. If
So,
you wanna
so
repeat it
in,
very
in
quickly.
the memo, in your memo, it states in 2A, paragraph 2A, section 611.2 was modified to allow the
Yeah.
replacement of minor parts.
Got it.
From-
Yeah, that should be
okay.
611.4.
Oh, no, it's not, that's not the issue. The issue is that when we look in the proposed regulations, it doesn't state that.
Right, okay, I understand what you're saying now, yeah.
It just says all repairs shall be within the building, so all repairs also include minor repairs. It doesn't say all repairs.
Yeah, I think that's a typo on my part, because I remember drafting a revision that specifically said that, but I think maybe it didn't get into the final version, so, okay, all right, your point's well taken.
Okay, so somehow that has to be in the regulations. And then, in regards to the used cars and the way that they would, a lot of people feel they might look as far as display. I think the best way to protect against it is the way that Commissioner Camillo had mentioned, and that's there are regulations in place to make sure that there aren't signs up there, there aren't banners up there. But to have used car dealers and have new car dealers and not have the ability to display their vehicles in the front yard, I don't think it's going to work. They need to have them in the front yard to display them. Otherwise, from a business standpoint, it doesn't make sense to have a facility. Well, depending upon how large your front yard is, I guess, but a lot of the front yards are pretty large. And then as far as customer cars, I think something that you might want to protect against is, you don't want customers' cars that are in states of disrepair that could be parked out there. So I don't know if there's something that needs to be a little more stringent in regards to that. In 611.6, I had a comment regarding the facade of the building shall be a combination of brick, split-face, block, or drive it. Can we make that the road-facing facade, since there could be different facades on a building, depending upon, if it's fronted on a corner, or could some people consider the back of the building also a facade? So it would really just be the road-facing facade that should be those types of materials. Under striking 611.7 to remove the overhead service doors, I just have a question. Would that mean that any number of service doors would be allowed? Right now, in my facility, we have 10 service doors. If I wanted to add on, could I have 15 service doors facing the street? Could I have 20 service doors facing the street? Is there a limitation on that?
No?
Okay. And then,
I think we're gonna require that, if we allow the service doors to be facing the street, that they be closed. They not, may open all the time. If you drive a car in, you close it. So the repairs are done inside a closed building, not where you drive by and you see inside the building where they're repairing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, but so that would be a burden on existing uses, like myself and Turnpike Motors, you know, especially during the weather where it could be 100 degrees and you could have that sun beating down right inside the garage bay doors. We've been here for years, we've been taxpayers for years, operating clean facilities and employing people in the town for years and years, and that would require us to change our structures in the interior of our buildings to mitigate the heat that would be, that would occur with closed garage doors.
I know when we did Walmart, their auto repair, because it was facing the residential area, that they put air conditioning in so that they could keep the garage doors open. It was a
Right.
requirement at the time that the garage doors stay closed, that they're not open, you know, all summer long.
I understand that for a new use that's going in, that's going to get approved under these regulations. But for existing use, I thought what we were trying to accomplish was to make the existing uses conforming. And there are existing uses out there that have bay doors that do not have air conditioning in their facilities right now, in their bay facilities.
Craig, that's actually an interesting point. So, and we'll use Modern Tire
How
as
do
a
you
perfect example.
differentiate between the
He's an existing
the
building
new and the
and
old? I
operating.
mean, we can have separate regulations for existing and what comes in new.
No, but I didn't follow your point. What were your,
His
For the
doors are
garage bay
open.
doors?
okay, so you have bay doors, overhead doors that face the street.
So my first comment was, we have overhead bay doors that face the street. We have 10 that face the street right now. So if I wanted to add on to my building, could I put 15 bay doors, 20 bay doors in the front? Is there any limitation to that?
No.
Okay, there's no limitation. And then among discussion, there was that, well, maybe if you had a lot of bay doors, the doors should be shut. And I said, that would be kind of onerous on existing uses that already have bay doors, because then we would have to air condition our buildings or somehow modify them so that the heat wasn't a burden on our employees. And we're at this discussion right now in
Okay,
regards to what's the best.
so
way.
back up a couple sentences. Why would anybody tell you to keep some of the doors closed?
Just saying that if we're gonna allow the doors to face the street, one of the big objections to that is that when you drive by, normally the doors are open and you see the inside, you hear the noise, you see their whole activities. And that's objectionable to some people.
Right, and that's why for 5 years we had the rule that you couldn't have a overhead door facing the street. So
So let me,
Probably the
you
reason
just have to
why.
decide which.
let me ask the question and try to see if we get an answer.
Uh-huh.
Modern Tire has 10 doors right now. Those doors can be open. There's no issue. He adds on to his building, adds 5 more doors. The new regulations in place, the new doors now have to be closed.
No, okay, that's the part I'm missing. Why do they have to be closed?
Well, because the new regulation is going to say that.
It-
I-
oh,
It
okay.
might say that.
Oh,
It might
okay.
say that,
Yeah.
okay?
Oh, that would be very difficult. That would put a real burden on the CEO, because then he would have to go around town and identify every existing overhead door that faces the street, because those, you can't make the owner open or close them. Only new ones would have to be,
Right.
could be
So,
forced to stay closed, which would be a nightmare to
so
to
the
administer.
10 that he has can stay open, but the 5
Right,
new
but
ones
I-
have to be closed.
Yeah, I would not,
How you could
I
do
would
that.
not recommend such a
In
regulation.
a previous, in one of the previous meetings, I had made a recommendation that, for the garage doors, that any validly approved existing use that was present, that had bay doors facing the street, they could not add additional bay doors to the street. But those doors could stay open if they were validly approved by this commission at some point in time. So in my instance, if I wanted to add on to my building, I could only keep my 10 bay doors that I have facing the street. If I wanted to add 5 more bays, I'd have to add them around the back. And those back doors is where I would enter those bays, or I'd make it a drive-through or whatever. But my 10 bays in the front, I could keep open. In that way, it would be easier for the a zoning official to monitor it, because you'd say, you know, Modern Tire, every bay door could be open, and they add it on, and they've got 5 more bays, those around the back, don't worry about them. So it'd be like Turnpike Motors, okay, they're all set because their bay doors were there. But if you get a brand new use, ABC company comes in and they open up a garage and they've got bay doors facing the street, then those doors got to be shut, if that's what the commission so, chooses to do.
Okay.
And just one other item, there was, one of the paragraphs here said, any structures shouldn't be within 30 feet of a streetway or right-of-way or something like that. The only thing that we haven't addressed or mentioned is electric charging stations. As we move forward with electric cars and whatnot, I do see a lot of those charging stations, and they seem to be close to the street in certain areas, other towns that I see. So I don't know if that is something that you should take into account in regards to the positioning of those, if there are more to come in the future. That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Amy Suchins here representing Guggenheim Retail Real Estate Partners, which is the owner of the Firestone property, as you all are aware. Just 2 things. One, I want to incorporate from the previous record the comments that I had made with respect to the proximity to the residential zone. Again, the idea that there are a number of properties in Newington that if the goal of the regulation is to make these changes to bring more properties into conformity, that issue of eliminating the proximity to the residential zone does allow that. And then with respect to this question about the limitation on the bay doors, I think, again, you're creating if you're going to, your original regulation included a ban on the bay, would not prohibit bay door, would prohibit bay doors facing the street. You've now noticed a regulation that would allow bay doors facing the street. And frankly, the discussion you're having right now is another change to that I think could arguably limit some of the rights of the property owners, and you may run into another notice issue with respect to trying to change and more. By including limitations on bay doors, now that you've taken it out, you could affect more property owners who may not have cared about what was going on with the doors. So I would encourage you to revisit that issue if you're going to go forward that way with the town attorney. Otherwise, I have no other comments unless you have questions.
Any questions?
No.
Thanks.
So maybe at this point it would be good, I have an email from Attorney Hollister, who he asked me to read it into the record. It's brief. Well, it's not that brief. It's a paragraph. To the Newington Town Planning and Zoning Commission. As you know, the Firestone Auto Repair Facility at 2987 Berlin Turnpike was constructed with 5 overhead service bay doors facing and in close proximity to the rear or side yards of 4 single-family homes on Main Street. If the commission is considering amending or eliminating from the auto use regulations the previous, currently 6.11.7, about overhead doors facing a public street, I strongly suggest that the commission clarify that such overhead service doors should not be permitted facing a residential zone. This is an important protection of homeowners and is consistent with provision that is proposed to be retained in the revised regulation prohibiting auto uses within 100 feet of a residential zone. The regulation could read, overhead service doors shall not be permitted facing a residential zone. Thank you, Attorney Tim Hollister, Shipman and Goodwin. So I guess his point is, in other words, not allow the doors that we currently have on the back of the Firestone building, because those face a residential zone.
Okay. You heard what the last attorney just said about, are we in compliance with the procedural, as far as, if we're to make changes now, we got to re-notify or?
Well, like we did the last time, let's do a straw poll. And if it looks out, a majority of commissioners do want to adopt a more restrictive overhead door regulation, then Attorney Suchins is saying that that should be re-noticed and
Say that again,
reposted.
say it again.
Okay, so the regulation that was advertised would allow overhead doors, just like in the old days. But what we're hearing tonight is some commissioners are saying, well, maybe we should put some restrictions on overhead doors. Maybe we should require them to stay closed at all times. I think what Attorney Suchins is saying is that if that's the direction you end up going, if you end up adopting a regulation that puts limitations on overhead doors, which was not what was published,
No, okay, that's what she's
Yeah.
saying, okay.
that we should start over again with a new version that warns the public that that overhead doors will have to stay closed. They'll be allowed, but they'll have to stay closed.
Well, there's precedents in the past that we've forced an applicant to put air conditioning because the thing faced, was close to a residence zone, and they had to keep the doors. It's Walmart, it's their tire center in the back. They air conditioned that center so that they could comply with not having the doors open all summer long. It was a condition of the approval. If you want, you could pull up the application when it came in, and you could see that was part of the application. I remember that vividly. So, you know, it's a double-edged sword here. You made one person do it now. And
Well-
it's up to the commission.
Well,
If they
I
don't
think you should
that
continue the
it's-
public hearing and hear anything else the public has to say. And once the public has finished speaking, then maybe you can discuss among yourselves
Yep.
whether you want to go with a more restrictive overhead door regulation. And if it turns out a majority of you do, then we should start over with a regulation that clearly says overhead doors will be allowed, but they'll have to stay closed. And then the staff will just have to document the ones that are existing.
It would mean that we got to go back and re-advertise and do, is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying in this situation, yes.
Just in this situation?
Right. I don't know if we will always need to, but I think in the future, if there is an amendment that's being closely watched by parties that feel very strongly in different ways, then maybe we'll have to take this type of approach in the future.
What if I said that under 6.11.4, the temporary parking of customers in the front yard and the right-of-way, that I was against that because I don't want them parked in the right-of-way? We'd have to go back out again?
Well, okay, I know you're saying just for example, but which one again? 6 point,
C,
well,
C under 2.
no, which regulation? 6.11 point,
This is on your memo.
Page 2.
well,
I think the answer, Mr. Chairman, is no, because that's not in contention. I don't think that's the issue that's causing all of the,
Well, that might not be the issue now because we haven't brought it up, but the issue, the issue was about the garage doors, and if we wanted to make it, put conditions on allowing the garage doors, that we can't. We'd have to re-advertise it with the conditions basically before we
we're not going to win with one party, obviously. We need to make the decision, I believe, that we think is best for the town. We've got two sides here. One doesn't want the doors, one wants the doors. So I hear both sides, but I think we just need to decide what's best for Newington.
Yeah, but I don't want to get caught in the procedural thing where we
I hear
make a
you.
decision, and then we get an appeal from one of the aggrieved parties, and then we got to start all over again.
Yeah, I'm afraid that the 6.11.2, which is on the monitor, which is what I think is what I posted with the town, the town clerk, doesn't say what I meant it to say. Because, you know, when you read something, you read what you thought you said. And this doesn't say what I meant it to say. So, you know, maybe we should start again. I don't know.
Fine with
I think
me.
we
mean, I want this got to get right. I mean, we've been playing with this for months. I mean, another month or so isn't going to make a difference because it's either going to be right or it's not going to be anything.
I agree.
Yeah.
As you say, you know, we've been going through this more than a
Every
month.
time we look at it, we
Every
come up with more
we come up with
questions
something
than
different.
answers.
Yeah, but, and here, we have, you know, maybe the town planner overlooked that in, what was it, 6.11.2? I think, you know, if we do want to allow some temporary repairs outside of the building, we do have to change that. So we're going to need another public hearing.
Right.
As far as the overhead doors are concerned, again, you know, if we're going to prohibit the doors from being open facing, if they face a residential, or if we prohibit them, overhead doors at all facing a residential district, then we have to come again. But I don't know, let's try to, you know, put them all
We did a
together.
straw poll last time. The commission was overwhelming that they wanted to allow the garage doors. So
Right.
that issue, as far as I'm concerned, is what the commission has voted, or straw polled. But now we come to the point where if we want to put any conditions on that, we can't. So you're stuck with either one specific way.
Yeah, let me
Yes.
ask a question of the town planner.
Sure, go ahead,
If,
Mike.
you know, if we leave it as it is, overhead doors are permitted, facing the street are permitted, and build a boom or whatever. Can a condition be made in a specific case? If, let's say, we do have an application for a repair shop or or whatever, near, you know, where the overhead doors will be facing the residential district or residences. Can we apply a condition that says, you know, in that one particular case, the doors must stay closed?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, I think that's exactly the kind of special condition or condition that you can impose on a special permit activity. For example, if you have an applicant who wants to put an auto-related use right across the street from an apartment building or someplace, versus another, the exact same type of business in an industrial zone across the street from a factory. Yeah, you could definitely impose some kind of restrictions, such as the doors must stay closed on the business that's across the street from an apartment building, but you wouldn't impose that on the one across the street from a factory if you chose to. Yes, you have that discretion when it's a special permit, as these are.
Thank you.
That's what we did with Firestone when we allowed them to go through. The residential side can only be open when a vehicle's going in or out, and it must be closed and never left open
Okay.
for the noise issue. So that's still valid? We could do that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you could, if the regulation doesn't automatically require it in all cases, you could impose it on a case-by-case basis. in which case the regulation then shouldn't say that doors must always be closed, because then you don't have the flexibility to allow it in some cases and not in others. It would have to be in all cases. But if you don't address it at all, but do choose to impose it on a case-by-case basis, you could do that if the circumstances warrant it, if it's reasonable at that location.
And in 6.11.5, although I'm not in favor of it, the commission is a majority of it, there is a 100-foot buffer between residential zones and automotive-related uses. So I think we're kind of taking care of it, and I think what you just said makes an excellent point that we can, if it is butting up against whether it be an apartment complex or a nursing home, someplace where you don't want a level of disturbance, between maybe closing the doors or adding a landscape buffer that's going to offer more protection, we have that ability, correct?
Right.
So I'd like to see it stay the way it is. Well, I'd like to see the 100 feet go down, but I know I'm not winning that one.
Okay. Michael?
And on the, at the same time, I hate to be a pest about this, but I'd like to get back to the signs. We do have the regulations on temporary signs, permanent signs, so that we will have the ability, if let's say we do wind up with a new/used car dealership, that will be able to have their cars out front. We will be able to put a condition on them that they have to come to us if they want any signs outside of the regular
Yes.
things. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, seeing none, we're going to keep this open?
Yes.
Or you want to do it over again?
No, let's, well, it looks like the consensus is not to require overhead doors to be closed, so there's no need to,
But what about 6.11.2, where you made the typo?
oh, well,
I don't think it warrants it, but
I'm not going to recommend that you redo the hearing for that reason, but it's up to you. Keep the hearing open, keep the hearing open. Let me, for the next meeting, give you what I thought I had, which again makes it clear that the owner of the business can replace a windshield wiper blade in front and not violate the rule that says all repairs must take place inside the building, which was my intent. I'll give you the correct language at the next meeting, at the continued public hearing, and you can make the decision then whether to close the hearing and act on it or start over.
Leave it open and
Yes.
we'll go to the next item. Next item is approval of minutes, May 8th.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
aye.
Okay, next item is new business. Petition 1819, the axe throwing.
I have no new information.
Okay, then we could, I don't see the applicant here either, so we'll move on to the next item is, under new business is 1919 POCD update.
Oh, okay, just wanted to, this will be a standing item, so I can give you an update on the POCD. Okay, the town manager is on vacation, but the acting town manager relayed to her our request to use the tax mailer to notify Nugent residents about the workshop. And the answer came back that the manager did not want to do that. She'll be back from vacation tomorrow. I can talk to her about it. But when I discussed this with Glenn Chalder, he said, well, they're actually, maybe it's just as well we don't use the tax mailer, because if the first knowledge that people have that there's a new POCD being developed is when they get their tax bill and they're in a bad mood, maybe that's not the time to ask them to come to a workshop meeting. That was one point. And this other point is, we're still going to do those plan like your children live here signs that Glenn brought to the meeting the other day. We're still going to do those signs, and we'll put those signs out a couple weeks before the meeting, which everybody will see, and anybody who cares will know and will come. So it might not, if the manager sticks to her initial decision to not use the tax mailers, we have other ways to get out the word. Oh, and doing our own postcard would cost 10 times as much. It would cost thousands of dollars, so that's kind of unrealistic.
I don't see the logic behind the thing where if you get your tax bill and there's a notice to come to a thing that, oh, I'm mad, I got my tax bill, I'm not going anywhere. I mean, that don't even make any sense, number one. Number two, we talked about this when we did the last plan of development. It was consensus of the whole board that we go forward with putting this in the tax bill. At the time, there was no objection from the town or from anybody as to why we couldn't do it. I reached out to Carol to talk to the manager to get some kind of an answer as to, what is her rationale of saying why we can't? Is it the cost? Is it staff? I mean, it's always with, she don't have enough staff or she's too busy. But this is something that's really important. We're not going to be able to get to the public the information that we're doing this with lawn signs and stuff like, you got to put it in front of them. You can't, will have the opportunity, everyone will have the opportunity to see that we're doing this. If they choose to come, great. If they choose not to come, they were notified. We can't be put in a position where, well, we didn't know about it, you made that change, and we didn't know about it. How come we didn't know about it? We have a vehicle to do it. It's less money. What was the cost to doing our own mailing? Like $10,000?
$7,000.
$7,000. To put, what was the cost to put a stuffer in the tax?
700.
700. Come on, $700. I'll give them the $700. Put the thing in. That's ridiculous. If it's the money, I'll put the $700 in, if that's the case. Bring it back to the manager. I want this thing that the people in the town of Newington have the opportunity to know what the hell we're doing. And I need an answer why she's stonewalling this. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Mr. Chairman, I agree. I think it has to be in a notice, and I know at our last meeting, we were talking about, should it be just in the auto, should it be in the houses? In all reality, thank you. In all reality, I believe it should be in both. And if there's duplicates go to people, it doesn't matter. It's so cheap to put an insert into something that's already getting mailed out to the public. So we want to make sure that everybody has it, and I think this was a vehicle that people talked about 10 years ago that was perfect. And so I would agree with you that I think that this would be our main notification. It's only done every 10 years.
Mr. Braver.
Just as a comment on it, one of the unintended consequences, which will eventually be, it'll be in Facebook. It'll be on social media anyway. People will comment and people will want to discuss it, and therefore the room will be filled.
I've sat through two of these, or
Yeah.
2 or 3 of these, and the
So
room
it-
does not get filled if
Should
there's
be.
an issue.
Yeah, it's going to be an issue, and then because of, the current social media frenzy that's out there, it'll be no choice. It'll be a no-brainer. People will come. People will want to hear about it. There'll be a lot of false rumors spread. It'll be a good time for us to explain correctly.
Yeah, and the way to notify it that everybody knows about it is that everybody gets a notification.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking $700,
Well, that would be for just the motor vehicle taxes. I mean, motor vehicle
So
with
it's
the property.
$1,000 or $1,500.
Yeah, something like that.
It's,
It'll reach more people.
Steve,
I think the issue, and I'm not going to try to second guess the manager, but if a car is leased, it's not going to go to the homeowner or the car
I
owner.
don't think that's her issue.
But my point is, same thing with a mortgage. If you have a mortgage, it's going to the bank. So it's not, my point is, it's not getting to everybody. So then does the issue become, I didn't get a notice. You didn't mail it to me.
that's when all the other things kick in. The social media, the long signs, all the rest of the things kick in for those people that don't get it. But you got to take it, you have to take some active role in notifying the residents of what's going on. And that's the problem with government in itself, because they talk about transparency, and we don't make it transparent. And this is a way to do it. And I just want an answer from the manager, what the objection is. I don't even know what she's objecting to. So I want to know that. If there's a good reason, then I'll back off, but I don't see any. Not for it can't be a cost.
Make it a request of the council, and
I've
bypass the
reached out
manager.
to the, Carol's going to be talking to the manager, hopefully, and the planner's going to be talking to the manager, and we'll get an answer one way or another.
Okay.
And I have to come up with some other way to do it. Either that or don't do the notification, but then be at the mercy of the public that's not informed.
Okay, and you all, that slip of paper and envelope from Glenn for if you have other ideas of people that he should interview as part of the process.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a problem with him interviewing people outside of a public hearing. Because we don't know what they're saying, so we have no idea. I mean, this all should be done in a public hearing, is my opinion.
Any comments on that? Why do you think that, Donna?
Because we're having a public hearing on the POC. If he's going to interview different people from the town or citizens or whatever, we're not going to know what was transpiring between both of them. I mean, that's what the public hearing's for, is to gather that information up and the thoughts of the public. I think for him to do it outside of the public hearing is inappropriate, is my opinion. But if everybody wants to do it, it's all right.
I don't know.
It's pretty customary for the consultant to be talking to department heads, other elected officials, to get all kinds of information from people that he's going to be spending many hours gathering information on the town of Newington. To try to do all of that at a public meeting at night and make everybody sit through his conversation with the dog catcher, that's, I'm not sure if that's the most efficient use of everyone's time.
Any
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say dog catcher. I didn't mean to be flippant, but my point is I don't know if it's really good use of his time to have everything in front of everybody.
Any other commissioners feel that way, or do you think it's fine to do it that way?
I'm okay with it because I believe that that information is then going to come back to us. He's going to compile it and he'll share that data with us.
Yeah.
I don't think, I understand Commissioner Payne's issues with it, because I get that. But I just think it's not going to happen. We're not going to get all those people here. So you need to kind of reach out to people that you will have a conversation with you, but won't come to this meeting to express their views.
So then I would ask that he keep track of the questions, that the comments from people, he'd have to keep track of all the comments so that he could present it to us then. And, I mean, one of the reasons we went with Glenn was because he knows the town already and he already did it. So, if he does talk to people outside of the public hearing, he should be able to provide us with comments.
Yeah, he has to have a script. It has to be the same script that
I
he
would-
asked
yeah.
everybody.
I would think he would without us, going through all this. I'm sure he's not thinking of talking to people and then, just putting this stuff. And then,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think I initially heard when he was here, he said that he also uses social media. And so if that's the case, he's going to get more feedback and maybe more interesting feedback that he'll present to us. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion.
Stanley?
I agree with both what Commissioner Payne and everybody else is saying, that
we want to know what's being fed back. As long as he has some type of, if they're going to be the same generic questions, I don't know. What do you know, normally it's the same generic questions like, whatever. But then, also you might get different views, and a lot of people are working 2 jobs and they don't have time. I don't know how the interview is going to be conducted, whether it's going to be by phone, by mail, or email, or whatever. But, let's give the public as much opportunity as they can to weigh in on this. That's my point.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Planner? Next item is, we already did Newington Ridge. Item D, the window signs, we're going to hold off until the next meeting. Old business,
Yeah, I'd recommend that there be a motion to withdraw this application, just to put closure to it.
you have a motion in your
No, I
packet.
don't, oh, did I give you one? I've forgotten already.
I don't know if you did. Is there a motion? I believe there's a motion was part of your packet in the back. Yeah? No?
I don't, oh, yeah, yes, I did. Yep, there's a draft motion.
Got it? You have it? Why don't you read that into the record and we'll vote on it.
Zoning text amendment, petition 0-19, section 3.11.3, section 3.17, section 6.11, motor vehicle uses. Town Planning and Zoning Commission applicant. I move to withdraw petition 019.
0319.
No, 0319. Zoning text amendment, section 3.11.3, section 3.17, and section 6.11, motor vehicle uses, Town Planning and Zoning Commission applicant.
Motion
Second.
made and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Mr.
next.
Chairman,
Yes,
could please make a note that I've recused myself from that.
Yes.
Thank you.
petitions for hearing, scheduled hearing, there are none. Mr.
Correct.
Planner?
Yep.
Town planner's report,
I don't have any report.
okay. Communications,
I sent the last one out from CROG that everybody should have gotten, the last minutes of the update.
Carol? What's that?
Yeah.
Which was what?
The library, we have the memo in here. I don't know where it is on the agenda, if it's,
It's not on the agenda. I just see, it's not,
Huh?
yeah, that was Anthony Claffey's item, and he's not here tonight, so that's why they skipped over it.
He's the one that brought it up,
And he's not here.
and he's not here, so we decided we'll wait until he's here.
Did we approve the minutes yet?
Public participation?
library?
What about the
gonna ask
library?
questions.
You're from the library, I'm assuming?
Yes.
What happened with that? Were they supposed to be here, or
I don't have any report on that.
you have something you want to bring forward?
No, we're just here to kind of watch and learn.
Okay,
We expect that we'll be in front of you soon.
okay, very good. Yes,
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I came up to hear the discussion on the window signs. Was it taken off the agenda in the beginning? I missed the first few minutes, and when I turned on, you were in executive session, so I'm just curious. Was it removed from
Yeah,
the
we
agenda in the
removed it
beginning?
as-
No,
Was it
we didn't officially remove it, but when we got to that item, it was skipped over because the advocate for it is not here tonight.
Okay, maybe, instead of us interrupting you from the audience, maybe you could have just said that Mr. Claffey's not here, but he's the one that wants this discussion to be
Yeah,
held.
he's the one that brought it up the last meeting. He asked that we have a discussion. He brought in some pictures of some different areas where you couldn't see inside the stores and places because the windows were plastered with signage, and he wants to discuss it. And my recollection is that we've discussed it before, and there's consensus of this commission that there was not too much we could do about it because we don't regulate what's inside the windows. But he wants to have another discussion about it, and it's his prerogative, so we're going to do that.
No, I understand that, and I just, as I've been here quite a few times for these meetings or watched from home, I know the discussion had been had, and I was just wondering what the new information was on it. And was there any talk at any point in time of asking the police chief is what his opinion is on
We've had
the,
that information that,
you do?
yeah, at that last meeting, when
Okay.
we discussed it before, we got information that, you know,
And one last question, if I may. Do I complain to the town or to the DOT about signs that are in the right-of-way
on the Berlin Turnpike,
anywhere in town? Main Street, all over?
we report that to the zoning enforcement officer.
You could do both. If you report it to the CEO, he'll then call DOT. If you call DOT directly and you save Andrew having to do it, but either one would work.
As a resident who was at the last 2020 plan, the POCD, I agree that the public has to be informed, whether it be through the mailer, you get some of them, on Facebook you get some of them, Rare Reminder, Town Crier.
Right.
Quite honestly, and I've said it before, I'm tired of people saying, oh, I didn't know about that, or they're behind a keyboard saying, oh, I didn't know about that, DTT, they should have done this, or they should have done that. Get up here, put your face up to the mic, put your mouth up to the mic and say what you have to say, because that's the only way that you people are going to know what people are thinking. Because I'm sure you don't monitor Facebook to see what these ideas are that, three things today, or in the last couple of weeks. Why aren't the lights on in the center? What's going on at Mill Pond Park? And all kinds of speculation as to what's happening when all they had to do is pick up a phone and call someone and ask the question.
When we talk about the 2020 plan and the social media, there's so much misinformation on social media that I'm not overly excited about using that as the only means of letting people know what the hell's going on. That's why I want this mailer.
Well, quite honestly, I think unless you've got a hot topic item, like the last time you had Save Cedar Mountain, when we had to move from this room to the gym,
Right.
and we were outside in the heat and all over
I
the
don't
place.
see that this time, but
I don't see
we
it
still
happening.
need to give the people
But
the opportunity
You don't want to
know
hear
about
that
it.
they weren't informed. So
Right.
thank you for the efforts that you're making to do it.
Yep. Anyone else from the public? Okay. Commissioner remarks? Commissioner Pang? Got anything?
Just one thing. If in the future, the library and Hart Street comes in, probably the library, I think it would be imperative to have the town engineer here for that one, because there's, from what I understand, there's drainage and design problems. And I would want to make sure that we got all the necessary information if they did come. Thank you.
That's something that's on the horizon, Mr. Planner.
I believe so.
Any other commissioner remarks? Commissioner Fox?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I saw on the calendar of events that the services, the Memorial Day services that are usually upstairs of Town Hall, are going to be in the auditorium. That's not true. I was talking to the committee just before going in here. It's going to be for people that are watching and want to go. It's actually going to be over at the Mortenson Community Center. They'll be taking half the gym. So I don't know who has to correct that in the social media or whatever. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.